All right, hey, what's up, guys? So today I want to talk to y'all about what it took for me to create my first craft cocktail menu home in Georgia. I've never thought that I would do that at this age. I thought I'd be a little older. I thought it would take me a little more time. But, coming home, I knew it's what I wanted to do. Not only did I plan on writing my own cocktail menu, I do plan on opening up my own bar here at some point. I'm in the works about that right now. Still figuring out how to do so. Figuring out how to get more people involved. I came home, I wrote this really good cocktail menu for a place called Lake House. And I just want to talk to y'all about it. They can have the cocktail menu. I don't know. I don't know where the headspace is on that. I haven't really had the communication with them about that. But I wrote it, so I'm going to talk about it, I wrote this menu so the restaurant renovated. I came there, I worked there a month before we renovated. Just using the bones that the restaurant already had, I renovated the bar, to make more sense. For some reason, their bar wells were like right next to each other at like an L. So you're like working on top of each other when like there needs to be one person manning the restaurant cocktails for the well. And then there's one person manning the cocktails for the bar, maintaining the bar guests. Now, I think the bar held about 18 guests because it was like a big U. The part where the U, like, you see what I'm saying? So down here at this part, there was like the well and then the doorway to get in and out of the bar. So there was no guests served at this part, but it was the two front and back side of the bar is where the guests were served. So there's about 9 to 10 on each side. So that's how it worked. So I had to get in touch with Coke. I had to get in touch with, we ordered a bunch of products from Webstront. So I picked out the glassware. I wrote the cocktail menu. I renovated the bar. Those were my big things. And I dealt with all of the beverage products. So like Coca-Cola, for example. So one of the big hurdles I had to deal with was get in touch with Coke. So that way they can move the actual wells where the Coke guns were. Because the Coke guns, like I said, were side by side, which was weird. So I made it to where it made more sense. I wrote a whole map. I measured everything out so that way things had specific spots. There was 2 coolers. I'll draw a map and I'll put it on the screen. I had it all measured out. I had a map drawn. I had it to where it made sense in my head and on paper so that way things could move in a fluent motion behind the bar. That way you don't have to step over here to grab a glass. You don't have to step over here to grab some Coke, So each person who was making drinks were able to have their own set of glassware. They had their own Coke machine. They had easy access to the beer taps on the wall, or they both had easy access to the beers and wines in the coolers. And then also something else I was involved with was getting a new dishwasher behind the bar. So we had a 3-layered sink. I reached out to our new reps about getting a dishwasher. It worked out. We ended up going with Ecolab, and really cool. Got a really good machine. It went very well. It saved so much time. And it's a lot more appealing to people when they see it come out of a dishwasher rather than you hand washing their drink and then, hand washing their glass for their drink. I ended up nipping that in the bud as well, where we ended up having enough glassware where we didn't have to do that. But the restaurant was extremely busy sometimes where, you'd behind in glassware. So having that dishwasher saved a lot of time. So cool. Those were the things I was a part of. So during that renovation period, I already had my cocktail menu ready to go. Like day 1 of close, my menu was ready to go. Now, granted, I didn't do my tasting yet. When we were halfway through renovations, the chef and we did our tastings with all the management. So there was 3 of us. It was me, the chef, and the general manager. We all 3 sat. Well, not sat. The chef was cooking. I pulled a little cart that I put all my bar stuff on into the restaurant, or into the kitchen, to make cocktails while he's cooking food. So we're both side by side. He's making food for the new food menu. I'm making cocktails for the new drink menu. And we were just putting them up at the same time, pretty much, where I'm putting a drink up and he's putting up a plate. And, our food and our concepts and our drinks were like pairing very well together for the idea of being on the lake and having something like to enjoy while you're outside, That was the whole purpose, was like to enjoy lakeside food. Now, my definition of fine dining compared to other people's is different, because I do know what real fine dining is. And the chef that was involved with this is also under that same perspective. We were with the idea of just putting out good food and good drinks. My cocktail menu was not very extreme, but compared to what it was more difficult. It was a Jack and Coke bar where they also popped beers. That's what that bar was. I renovated it so that way it would make more sense for craft cocktails. Maybe not full out craft cocktails where there's 18 touches in one drink, but 6 to 7 touches compared to 1 to 2 is a big change. And especially training bartenders that have never done anything like that before, that don't know how to make an actual old fashioned, that do not know how to make a real daiquiri. It just takes time and patience and being able to teach. And also being willing to learn. My cocktail menu, I'm very proud of it. Let's talk about it. So coming up first on the list, there's a bunch of liqueurs I learned about while I was in Nashville. I worked a lot of bars in Nashville. And then on top of that, I really built my palate up in Nashville. I got to taste a lot of different products, things that aren't really here yet, in this small town. So being able to taste all those different things in Nashville made it where it wasn't too hard for me to build my cocktail menu. Now, that comes with its own challenges. I'll get to that in a moment. But I made this aloe vera Collins cocktail. I called it Pontoon Lagoon. Basically, it had aloe vera liqueur called Cointreau. Not Cointreau. It had Chirot. I apologize. Chirot is an aloe vera liqueur that has cucumber, mint, and aloe vera. It's a very cool liqueur. Nobody out here is using it. No one even knows what it is. I introduced it to the area. Super simple, like Collins cocktail. Instead of gin, it was vodka though. So I wanted to have a diverse menu to where it had vodka, gin, rum, tequila, and whiskey. And yeah, that's where I went from that. So super simple cocktail. And then after that, following that, I had what we called Elaine, and I didn't come up with that name. I'm not going to get into that story either, but it is called Elaine. I'm against calling really anything with an actual person's name. It's just how I feel about that. Anyway, there is a story behind that, and I'm not going to get into it though. Anyway, so this was one of my cocktails that I actually won a Conniption gin cocktail competition with. So this is a gin cocktail a gin cocktail, and it was basically a blackberry rhubarb French 75. So it had blackberries, fresh blackberries, it had rhubarb bitters, it had ginger liqueur, and gin and champagne. Super cool. Really good cocktail. I'm actually really proud of that one. So I'm happy it got me into nationals, which got me into 7th place, in the Realize Moya cocktail competition. Super cool. Really good cocktail. Really proud of that one. Rockies on the Rocks. That unfortunately did not do well in this area. And, it's really hard. People that have never experienced these types of things, they are too intimidated to even ask about it. So that is a liqueur, all right? And it's really a green apple black tea cordial. And that sounds intimidating. It sounds scary to some people, and they just won't do it. But let me tell you, that is perfect late side. Like literally, Rocky, you are a genius. And it's so unfortunate that it didn't do well on the menu. I was the only one really selling it. I was the one really pushing it, just because I knew what it was. No one else was able to explain it like I could. And on top of that, people were just too intimidated to try it. But green apple black tea cordial, Rockies on the rocks, so good. Perfect by itself. I could have made a cocktail for it, but I didn't think it needed to. Following that was Lake Time. This is the cocktail that brought me from Nashville to run this restaurant. So my mentor, Jody, he reached out to me about writing a cocktail with strawberry and hibiscus. I told him all the different routes I could do. So I had most of the ingredients already at home. I had a big thing of hibiscus flowers that was dried, and I just had it in my cupboard. So I made a hibiscus syrup. I went to the store and got some strawberries, and then I told him the different routes I could go. Like I could go like tequila style where it has kind of spicy. I told him I can go kind of tiki-esque. I ended up going more daiquiri rather than tiki forward, but so it was more of a strawberry hibiscus daiquiri is essentially what that cocktail is. Really good drink. Really proud of that one. That also scared some people because in the coupe glass, it's not traditional at all, but I put ice in it. because the hibiscus tea was kind of bitter and it kind of gave an aftertaste, that ice, while drinking it, made it delightful. It balanced it out. Yes, I could have more balanced out the hibiscus tea itself, but then it didn't have a pretty color. So I gave everything I thought, I promise. And I tried to explain this to my staff, and once things changed and I wasn't just over the bar anymore, it was really hard for me to maintain that myself, because I was over 45 people at one point rather than just 4 bartenders. Anyway, so following that is the ginger spice and everything nice. This cocktail, I wish it did better as well. To be honest, my cocktail menu was just kind of more expensive for the area as well. Because of all these nicer ingredients, you got to up the prices of cocktails, and that's something else I didn't think of. So, like I said, I'll get to that at the end of the issues that I dealt with about making cocktails in this area. So, Ginger Spice and Everything Nice is a cocktail I use for World Class, the biggest cocktail competition in the world. I didn't win anything with it, but I am extremely proud of it. And this is a little different than what I did for that cocktail competition. This is the original version of the cocktail that I created. It was originally called the San Lazaro Derby. I created it for a Google event in Nashville. That, along with another cocktail called Naked in Nash Vegas that I created. I did not come up with those names. I had help. I'm not the best at coming up with names, but the cocktails I did create, and I'm very proud of them. But Ginger Spice and Everything Nice is ginger, Amaro, whiskey, and it's like an old-fashioned riff, kind of. It's more boozy, for sure. Really good drink. I'm really proud of it. This one I'm really proud of. This was a good drink. It's a really good drink, and it's Watermelon Verde Margarita. We called it Sunburn. I did come up with that name, and one of my chefs, he frequented the restaurant, and he would have the Pontoon Lagoon, or no, he would have the Sunburn, and then the Pontoon Lagoon to, that aloe vera to help with the burn. You know what I mean? That's how he sold it to me. He was like, that's how you should sell it. Sell the Sunburn, then sell the Pontoon Lagoon so it heals that burn. He's a silly guy, and he's smart too. But the Watermelon Verde Margarita is super good. Fresh watermelon, Verde liqueur called Ancho Reyes Verde. Then your basic build of a margarita with agave, lime, tequila. Super good drink. Can't go wrong with it. Oh, and there was also Hellfire bitters in it. Technically it's not Hellfire. It is Hellfire tincture or something like that. It just was able to balance out the heat, rather than using like fresh jalapeno, because sometimes they're inconsistent. Sometimes they're spicy, sometimes they're not. That's why I went that route, because I want to have a consistent heat. I want to know the heat that I'm getting in my drink is the same every time I get it. That was something I like, consistency. Following that, the Fountain of Youth. The Fountain of Youth I created for a girl local to the area. I'm not the biggest fan of her. They had a cocktail originally on the menu about her, and it was on the menu, and it was a ranch water, and a lot of the cocktails out here, people want a ranch water, especially when they get off the boat. So I made this. I was going to originally call it Spite, out of spite, but coconut water, ranch water. Instead of soda, it was coconut water. So it was coconut, and it had it had a tahine and salt rim. So I mixed salt and tahine, and it was like a 30% salt, 70% tahine, and I used that same mix every time because I felt like tahine could be kind of acidic, and it was just a ranch water after that, and it had Hellfire bitters in it. I'm really proud of that drink. It was a really good one. Following that is the last cocktail. My dad may not believe it, or he may. I'm not sure, but I did write this cocktail for my dad. I call it the Duke. He is a big John Wayne fan, and my sister tells me I should have called it John Wayne tea, but because that's really what my dad calls it. But like, John Wayne tea does not sound good on a cocktail menu, let me tell you. So I thought the Duke sounded better, but it's an Arnold Palmer whiskey sour, lemon, sweet tea syrup, whiskey. I originally had orange liqueur in it, but it didn't even need it, and it was great. And it got garnished with like a lemon twist and a cherry, maraschino cherry. No, Luxardo cherry. My bad. Really good drink. Really proud of it. So that's my cocktail menu. I'll put a picture showing what that looks like. But yeah, it was a good cocktail menu. Perfect for the lake. I felt like at really any point in time in that restaurant, you could enjoy any of those cocktails. I put a really cool garnish on the Watermelon Verde, the Sunburn. It was dehydrated chili threads. I got that idea from when I worked at a bar called Les Lou in Nashville at Optimist. They had a cocktail that had dehydrated chili threads, and I thought it paired very well with the actual cocktail on my menu. Granted, nobody touches it. It looks kind of weird in the glass when it when you're drinking and it dissolves into the glass. Looks kind of weird, but I thought it paired well. Let's talk about some of the issues I had with writing a cocktail program here for the cocktails I was trying to produce in this area on the lake. First thing, when people come off the lake, they want something quick. They want something easy. They want something simple. They're not looking for a craft cocktail that takes 2 minutes, possibly. That's the quick. 2 minutes is not a long time, but when they get off the boat, they're waiting. They're sitting there at the bar waiting on you. So they want something that can just like be in their hands the minute they stand there. Which is kind of crazy because they're not looking for something quality. They're looking for something quick. They want quantity. They want to be able to get fucked up as much as possible, as quick as possible. So they're wanting like a Jack and Coke. They're wanting something with sour mix. They're wanting something not with fresh juices, which something, I accounted for. But, I was told that the owners had a vision and we were trying to attack said vision. And, I'm proud of the product that I put out, I'm extremely proud of it. And I would go there if things didn't change so much since I've left in the small time that I've been gone. Second to that, writing a cocktail menu before you know your vendors is a problem. I had to have 13 different vendors just to write that cocktail menu. I had my main vendor, who I purchased most people say well, but our house, Spirits. The owners wanted a higher end product in the well, so we called it House because our base anything was $10. Because a lot of places you can get a a whiskey and Coke for like $5 in the area because well whiskey is like $3 a bottle for them. So it was costing us like $7 to $8 a bottle. So our base pour was $10, People were already frowning on that. So, like I said, I had to have different vendors for and some vendors I had to just get one thing for. Like, for example, one of my vendors, I only bought my bitters through. And because of that, I had to buy an abundance of bitters to hold on to and or negotiate with them about getting other bottles to have on my shelf that I probably will never sell because they have a limit on what you order. So that sucked. So that was an issue I encountered. When you go into building a cocktail menu, know your vendors and know what they offer because you don't want to be relying on your sole cocktail menu to have 13 different vendors. You probably want like 3 or 4. And then have all those other vendors to order those random things that you might sell to one person, like, as like a top shelf product or whatever. Just to have those one-offs. But you don't need to have an entire cocktail menu relying on 13 vendors. Bad idea. Don't do that. Using all these higher end products, like I said before, people want to come off the lake and get their stuff fast. That means they also want it cheap too. They don't want to spend money. So my cocktails vary between $15 and $18, $18 being the most expensive. When they get off that boat, they don't want to spend $20 on a cocktail. They want to spend $6, $7, $10 at most on one thing. And then they want to get 2 to 3 of them. They don't want to have to spend almost $100 on 3 things. It's fair, Coming off the boat, I probably do the same thing. I probably order some beer. So that's just a fault that I learned and something I learned, doing this, Like I said, I'm still proud about the menu that I put out. I'm still proud about the experience I did. The amount of things I learned in the small amount of time that I was there, I'm extremely happy with that. I learned a lot, especially on my own. I learned a lot on my own because I was put to the test for sure to figure things out on my own. Right now, I'm currently not managing. I am bartending now. Back to bartending. It's nice not being a manager, not being so involved. It's nice just coming to work, knocking my stuff out, and getting out. It's a pretty cool. It feels way better. I make my money and I go home. I don't have to work 14-hour days. At the end there, when I was working at Lake House, I was the acting general manager. And the amount of things I had to figure out on my own during that was very difficult as the acting general manager. And that the hours rack up then because you're I have to be there to open, I have to be there to close. The amount of hours is just crazy, man. And no one should live like that. No person should live like that. And what I got to say about a general manager job, if you want that position, please ask all the questions. I didn't ask for that position, but I took it because people relied on me. Granted, I was doing it until they found one to take over for me. Then I was going to go back to bar managing. But at that point, I was already kind of burnt out, and I just wanted to bartend, and I want to open my own bar. So once I opened my own bar, I now know what to do. You know, I learned a lot, and I got a lot to focus on while I opened my own bar. So I'm really not just bartending. I'm still figuring out things to do with my own bar. On top of that, I'm planning pop-ups, I'm planning events, so that way I can get my name more out here in this area, so people know who I am, so people know what I've got to offer. So I'm really not just bartending anymore, but it's just more of my comfort zone, I guess you would say, rather than just managing. I'll have people involved that I want to be involved with when I open my own bar. So there's just a lot more different factors going into opening up my own bar rather than me managing somebody else's bar, because at the end of the day, it's my place. I do with it as I please. I'm stoked for that. I am so stoked for that journey. So if you guys want to hear more about that journey, please consider subscribing to the channel. Yes, I do post more content on here than just bar managing stuff. You know, it's going to be gaming stuff too. It's going to be, I'll probably end up doing podcasts soon, but it won't be on this channel. It will be on another channel. Me and a good buddy of mine who is a managing partner of a restaurant out here, we plan on talking about having a podcast together. We'll have some special guests that are all really in the same industry that kind of went through similar stuff as us and kind of have different opinions and feedback than we do. So it'd be good. It'd be good. So yeah, that's about it for the information about my cocktail menu. If you guys enjoyed, please consider giving the video a like. Subscribe to my channel if you like watching me. I'll catch you guys later. Peace out.